Studies Section 3. Aristotle's Metaphysics. Introduction. According to Bertrand Russell, Aristotle's metaphysics is Plato diluted with common sense. In general, Aristotle, in his theory of reality, represents an opposition and option to Plato's metaphysics. The point of divergence of Aristotle from Plato is perhaps best understood in the position of Aristotle, which argues that objects in the external world are not imitations of their ideals in the world of forms, but rather the forms are united with objects of the observable world. In other words, form is united with matter to culminate in a unity of reality. In this study section, you will learn about the unique nature of Aristotle's metaphysics with particular reference to his status as an opposition and an alternative to Plato and the notions of substance, form and matter as represented in Aristotle's metaphysics. Learning outcomes for study section 3. When you have studied this section, you should be able to explain the unique nature of Aristotle's metaphysics, discuss the concept substance and accident. Aristotle's metaphysics. Aristotle conceives metaphysics as the science which investigates being, as well as the attributes which belong to this in virtue of its own nature. It is the first science, for it is logically prior to and presupposed by all sciences. For him, it furnishes man with the most profound and most comprehensive knowledge about reality, and it is the highest science, for it explains things in light of their highest causes. For Aristotle, metaphysics is a discipline that is concerned with being, qua being, and the knowledge of first causes, and it involves the attempt to identify the most general kinds or categories under which things fall and to delineate the relations that hold among those categories. As a theoretical discipline whose goal is the apprehension of truth for its own sake, metaphysics has as its subject matter immaterial substance. What makes metaphysics a universal science is that it considers all objects that exist, and the fact that it examines the items that constitute the subject matter for other sciences. Aristotle's metaphysics is about the question, what is being, in two ways. On the one hand, when Aristotle raises this question, he undertakes a long search for an answer to it, and eventually he offers an answer. On the other hand, he also reflects on the question itself, what it is, to raise it and to search for an answer to it, and even whether it is possible to search for an answer at all. To Aristotle, what is metaphysics? To Aristotle, metaphysics is a discipline that is concerned with being, qua being, and the knowledge of first causes, matter and form. According to Aristotle, every object in the universe is composed of some form of an underlying stuff called matter. The matter of each kind of object has the potentiality for acquiring a form proper to the object, called its end or goal. The process of change or motion is the actualizing of the potentiality of the object. Matter, in its pure state, would have no characteristics whatsoever, but it is that which is capable of being informed or assuming various forms. The matter of the acorn and oak has the potentiality of receiving different forms, of having one form at one time and another at a later time. The form of the object at any given time is its actuality, what it has become at the particular moment. All objects have a permanent nature, which persists through its realization or acquisition of different forms. Each and every object can be understood only in terms of both its matter and its form and the process by which it grows, alters or moves, that is, replaces one form with another. The permanent aspect of an object never exists independently or without assuming some form. The object always is in some state and is in process of reaching some other state. Thus, the formal changing aspect and the material permanent aspect of any object are always present and always constitute the basis for any explanation of what is occurring. Box 3.1 Recall that Plato held a dualist position in which reality consisted of two worlds. The world of the forms was non-physical, eternal, unchanging, and known only by reason. The world of our everyday experience was material, temporal, constantly changing, and known through the senses. The first world, according to Plato, is what is ultimately real, whereas the world of our experience is like a collection of shadows. For Aristotle, however, form was always the form of matter of some kind. The essence was always in some object, giving it its nature and properties. Therefore, Plato's duplication of the real world was not necessary for Aristotle. Aristotle's understanding of form is really a critique of Plato's metaphysics. In his metaphysics, he argued that forms are useless in the sense that instead of explaining the natural world, Plato's theory creates a second world, thereby doubling the number of things that require explanation. Instead of bringing some unity to the multiplicity of things in experience, it complicates matter by introducing more multiplicity. Aristotle argued further that the forms cannot explain change or the movement of things within our experience. For him, it could be said that our lives are lived in a changing world, and you need to make some sense out of it. Therefore, if the unchanging forms are the basis for all explanation, then the whole study of nature has been annihilated. As a result, for Aristotle, the forms cannot be essence or substance of things if they are separated from them. He said that it is not clear what it means for particulars to participate in the forms. To say that the forms are patterns and that particulars share in them is to use empty words and poetical metaphors. The above explanation shows that Aristotle rejects the Plato's theory of forms. Aristotle concludes that you can dispense with the forms, for they are mere sound without sense, and even if there are such things, they are not relevant to our discussion. But he agrees with Plato that there are universal forms that are objective and that constitute the essences of things in the world. It is because of these forms that you are able to have knowledge, and that the other, in reality, can only be explained by reference to the forms. Relate Aristotle's understanding of form and Plato's metaphysics. Aristotle's understanding of form was a critique of Plato's metaphysics, the doctrine of essence, and the theory of universals. The doctrine of essences is the basis of Aristotle's theory of potentiality. The essence of form of a thing may be buried in it as, for instance, the potentiality of an acorn to grow into an oak. The oak in its developed form is a complete manifestation of the form or ideal originality latent in the seed. Aristotle rejected Plato's claim that there are two worlds, world of forms and world of matter. For Aristotle, there is no second realm apart from particulars inhabited only by universal. Universals are not to be found in another world nor in our mind. They are not out there, and their existence is in no way dependent on minds or whether or not there were no minds to apprehend them. According to Aristotle, a universal is simply a property that is common to a number of instances. One arrives at the concept of these properties by a process of abstraction from particulars. It is then obvious that there could be no universal without particulars, just as there could be no particulars without universals. The two are logically dependent on one another. Universals exist only in things, not as in Plato ante rem prior to things. Substance and accident. By substance, it is understood as that which stands beneath, that is, that which exists of its own, yet holds other things, which other things inhere. Furthermore, substance is what is predicated neither of nor in anything else. This captures the fundamental notion that substances are basic and everything else is predicated either of or in them. Now, if you transpose this logical definition of substance to the realm of metaphysics, where existence is taken into consideration, you can say that a substance is that whose nature it is to exist not in some subject or as a part of anything else, but what exists in itself. Thus, a substance is a properly basic entity, existing per se, though of course depending on an external cause for its existence. And the paradigm instances of which are the medium-sized objects that you see around us, horses, cats, trees, and humans. On the other hand, there are accidents. Accidents are what accrue to substances and modify substances in some way. Logically speaking, accidents are predicated of or in some substance. Metaphysically speaking, accidents cannot exist in themselves, but only as part of some substance. As their name suggests, accidents are incidental to the thing, and they can come and go without the thing losing its identity, whereas a thing cannot cease to be the substance that it is without losing its identity. And so, accidents only exist as part of some substance. It follows then that you cannot have unexemplified properties as if they were substances in themselves. Properties are always exemplified by some substance, whereas substance itself is unexemplified. For example, brown is always predicated of something. You say that X is brown, in which case brown is an accident. However, brown is never found to be in itself. It is always exemplified by something of which it is said. Kinds of substances. For Aristotle, there are three kinds of substances: those that are sensible and perishable, those that are sensible but not perishable, and those that are neither sensible nor perishable. The first class includes plants and animals. The second includes the heavenly bodies, which Aristotle believed to undergo no change except motion. The third includes the rational soul in man and also God. The place of the idea of substance in Aristotle's philosophy is brought to the fore by his argument for a first cause, which has been employed to argue for God's existence. Put simply, the argument is that there must be something which originates motion, and this something must itself be unmoved and must be eternal, substance and actuality. And so, there is a substance which is eternal and unmoved and separate from sensible things. This substance cannot have any magnitude, and it is without parts and invisible. So, Aristotle employs one of the understandings of substance to argue for the existence of a first cause. Summary of Study Section 3. In Study Section 3, you have learned that 1. The basic line of argument of Aristotle was traced with reference to his thought of reality. It was argued that Aristotle's metaphysics is an attempt to unite form and matter in any given reality, form given a stronger status of reality than matter. 2. Aristotle understands of substance and concludes by saying that the only reality you have is the natural world around us. This is the end of study section 3. Thanks for listening.